Okay, let's unpack this. When you think of volunteerism, you might picture, traditional hands-on help. Soup kitchens, maybe park
Sure,
cleanups.
that's the classic image.
But today we're taking a deep dive into something, well, far more strategic, complex, and legally intricate.
Yeah, forget it.
We're exploring volunteer roles in nonprofits in Canada and why they've really evolved into this mission-critical function. It's way beyond simple altruism now.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is how fundamentally the landscape has changed.
Yeah.
That old perception of volunteers as just like general, maybe unskilled labor.
Right.
It's rapidly becoming obsolete. Organizations are now actively leveraging specialized expertise, think IT support, complex grant writing, even professional marketing or financial management.
Wow, things they couldn't possibly afford otherwise.
Exactly. Imagine a small nonprofit suddenly getting a comprehensive digital strategy or a major grant application expertly written.
Huge value.
It brings significant strategic value, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it also brings some pretty critical legal considerations into play.
Okay, so it's not just about that direct service anymore. We're talking skill-based roles, important stuff, even like leadership positions, like board members.
That's right. And that shift fundamentally blurs the lines, doesn't it?
It really does. So where's the line?
Well, this raises that critical question. When is someone truly a volunteer in the eyes of the law, and when are they maybe legally an employee? Canadian courts use what's called a substance over form test. Basically, they look beyond the label, the title you give someone.
Okay, so it's about the reality of the relationship.
Precisely. They scrutinize factors like how much control does the organization actually exert over the work? Are the hours fixed? Is there sort of an expectation of ongoing commitment?
Or even future pay or benefit.
Exactly. Those things start to look a lot like employment. And the distinction is critical because employees get protections under laws like the Employment Standards Act. Volunteers generally do not.
And I imagine there are real-world, maybe significant financial consequences if that line gets blurred.
Oh, absolutely. There's a precedent-setting case, Montauk v. Handa Travel Student Trip Ltd. It really highlighted this.
What happened there?
Well, it was a for-profit travel company, and they classified their tour guides as volunteers. But the court looked at the reality.
The substance, not the form.
Right, and they reclassified them as employees. The result was a staggering $450,000 payout to former trip leaders.
Wow. Okay, so that's a serious warning.
It's a stark reminder. Even with good intentions, overlooking these legal distinctions can have, frankly, catastrophic financial and reputational consequences. And that principle applies just as much to nonprofits.
Okay, so misclassification is one big risk. What else?
Well, beyond that, there are wider legal implications. Organizations bear significant responsibility for what their volunteers do, meaning organizations can be held vicariously liable, that's responsible for the actions of others, if a volunteer is negligent while performing their duties.
So if a volunteer makes a mistake, the organization could be sued.
Potentially, yes. And interestingly, some legislation, like Alberta's Freedom to Care Act, protects individual volunteers acting in good faith.
Yeah.
But it explicitly says the nonprofit has no right of recovery against the volunteer for negligence.
Oh, interesting. So that shifts the legal risk squarely onto the organization itself.
Exactly. The buck stops with the nonprofit.
So for you listening, whether you're a volunteer yourself or involved with running an organization, this points to a really strong need for proactive risk management. Clear definitions.
Precisely. That's vital. And it includes robust screening processes, particularly for roles involving vulnerable populations.
Like kids or seniors.
Yes. The Vulnerable Sector Check, VSC, for instance, screens for certain records, like pardoned sexual offenses. But it's crucial to know it's only legally allowed for positions of trust or authority over vulnerable people.
And the organization has to start that process, right? The volunteer can't just get one on their own for any role.
Correct. The organization must initiate the request based on the specific role.
Now, these screening processes, they can feel like a big administrative lift, especially for smaller nonprofits. Any advice on managing that effectively?
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
It can seem daunting. Best practice often involves having really clear role descriptions up front.
Yeah.
What does this role actually involve?
Right.
Then doing reference checks and having a clear policy outlining what level of screening is needed for each type of volunteer role rather than, a one-size-fits-all approach.
Tailoring it makes sense, avoids unnecessary burden.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've navigated some pretty crucial and, sometimes daunting legal terrain here. But protecting the mission also means fueling it, right?
Absolutely.
And that really comes down to connection, to engagement. So after all these serious points, what does it actually take to build a program that's not just safe, but also rewarding and sustainable?
Yeah, that's key. It really means fostering a truly symbiotic relationship. Organizations obviously depend on volunteers to achieve their mission, but they also must meet the volunteers' own goals for a meaningful experience, maybe even personal growth.
So what works? What strategies are effective there?
Things like offering flexibility, maybe micro-opportunities, short, defined tasks, personalizing communications instead of generic blasts, offering tailored mentorship perhaps, or professional development opportunities if it fits.
And recognition. That's always important.
Critically important.
Yeah.
And varied personalized recognition, not just the standard certificate. These are key drivers for keeping volunteers engaged long term.
And it's not just about feeling good, is it? There's a measurable impact, too.
Right. Forward-thinking organizations are now quantifying that impact. They're calculating the ROI of skilled pro bono services, tracking how volunteer projects directly advance mission goals, even monitoring skill transfer between volunteers and staff.
So it moves beyond just logging hours.
Way beyond. It's about proving tangible value, both ways.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener?
It seems the future of volunteerism is definitely strategic, it's professionalized, and it's got to be legally informed.
Yeah.
It's really about protecting the mission, protecting the volunteers and the communities they serve, but also creating those deeply meaningful experiences we just talked about.
Which I think immediately begs the question for any organization listening. How can you truly weave these strategic needs and these legal requirements into your organizational DNA, ensuring that those invaluable contributions from volunteers aren't just sustained, but are continually, optimized for maximum impact and maximum protection?
A crucial question indeed. Lots to think about there.